Well, all right, kiddos, it's time to sharpen up those edges and grease up your chains. We are going to live it up with mountain life. Dropping in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, mountain lifers? Welcome to the Live It Up with Mountain Life podcast. What a summer, huh? Smoke and forest fires dominated the headlines, and I spent 3 weeks in a heat wave in the Arctic Circle. It was over 30 degrees every day. We had dry suits but never used them. We went swimming whenever we could. The river itself was 22 degrees. We didn't see any muskox because apparently they were all on the coast of the Arctic Ocean, trying to cool down. It's crazy, isn't it? Are some people still claiming that climate change isn't real? For today's guest, we have a guy that spent a lifetime advocating for the environment. A legend in Canada's paddling circles, Hap Wilson has created a life many of us would envy. I know I do. But first, here's a word from our partner, Jack Wolfskin. For almost 40 years, the Jack Wolfskin name and paw print have been a symbol of their trailblazing spirit and regard for nature. Since 1981, they have led the pack with innovative, eco-conscious technologies, a commitment to social responsibility, and forward-thinking designs. If you haven't seen the Jack Wolfskin paw print before, it's because they have only just completed their newest den here in North America. Jack Wolfskin will see you in the wild, wherever that is for you. There's a small circle of what I consider to be Canada's paddling royalty. Obviously, Bill Mason is at the top of the list, but people like Wendy Grader, Mark Scriver, and the entire Van Wyck family are on there too. Hap Wilson definitely makes the cut. Hap has been paddling Canadian rivers for decades. He stopped counting mileage at 60,000 kilometers when he realized the number were pointless. He's mapped numerous rivers and wrote the essential guide to the Missinaibi and the rivers of the Ottawa Valley. These guidebooks are meticulous in their detail. Hand-drawn maps of every set of rapids, indigenous history, and shuttle scenarios complete the publications. They're incredible books, and if you're paddling any of the rivers he has a guidebook for, do yourself a favor, buy his book. The internet has nothing on Hap Wilson. He's a writer, an artist, a trail builder, and an owner of an eco-lodge. He's a conservationist and explorer, but to me, he's an inspiring guy who has questioned authority for decades and created a life of his own design. Forgive us for the sound on a couple of clips here. Hap lives out in the sticks and the reception went in and out a couple times. Without further ramblings, here's my chat with Hap Wilson. Hap Wilson, welcome to Live It Up with Mountain Life podcast. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for the invite. Nice to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Where are you now?
I'm actually at home. My wife is up at our lodge, Cabin Falls Eco Lodge up in Temagami for the week. I'm down. We have a trail building company as well, so I'm doing a little bit of trail work and looking after the house down in Muskoka.
Okay, the house that's in Parry Sound, is it?
Well, we're kind of in the country. We're if you draw a point between Bracebridge, Huntsville, and Rosso, you'll find us in the country, right about the middle point there.
Okay, cool. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
In Toronto, North Willowdale, and I was 9. Then our family moved north to Richmond Hill area in the country, and went to King City High School. I was a very poor student at the time. I was sooner to go out paddling in cabins and things like that. If you write a book, your high school puts you in the class of distinction. So whether you're a good or bad student, just write a book and you'll be vaulted to into fame.
That was post high school, I assume.
Well, that was post high school. Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. But some of my old high school teachers were still alive. I had to explain why I fell asleep in their history class. My 85-year-old history teacher was sitting in the audience.
Oh, amazing. Cool. So the first time I heard your name was on the Noir, and I was doing a Black Feather trip, and one of the guides had a Hap Wilson book, and there was all these amazing drawings of all the rapids and stuff. It was crazy. I mean, you seemed like a mythical dude at the time, and then I looked you up once, and there you are, pretty much in Parry Sound. And how did you When did you do all these guidebooks? I mean, I've got the Missinaibi book sitting right here. It's this thing's crazy. It's so thorough.
Yeah, well, that's my nature, to be thorough, for one thing. I started the guidebook series when I was well, I wasn't quite a ranger, but I was hired by the Ministry of Natural Resources to do an inventory of 10,000 square kilometers, the Nistagan, which is, they're 5,000-year-old Aboriginal trails, the oldest on the planet, as a matter of fact,
Wow.
still in use. And that, they were being encroached upon by industrial use. So, I did that as my first guidebook to actually spread the traffic out over a much larger area, because Temagami at the time only had the waterway park in the mid 1970s, and it was getting quite well used, actually. More traffic in the 70s than there is now. But to spread the traffic out and to add some protection status to those ancient indigenous trails.
Wow.
But detail, I'm a field guide, so that's to me to get things right. I know in the past, not just this province but other provinces as well, when they doing proper inventory of recreational routes. So a lot of it was done by they hire a student and they look out. They have a clipboard on their lap and they look down, from 1,000 feet and say, well, it looks like must be a portage down there. So they're just, it's a lot of guesswork. And if you got my Missinaibi book there, and that was one of the highlights of my guidebook life, I suppose, when we exposed the inaccuracies on the federal topographical 1 to 50,000 scale maps, not intended for recreational use, and a lot of mistakes on the maps had it took me to the coroner's office in Toronto to find out why people were dying on this river.
Huh.
A lot of the deaths had occurred because of the inaccuracies on the map. So
Wow.
and people trust the government that they're doing the job, and interestingly enough, that was what still is. It's a waterway park and a heritage river at the time, and they were advertising in in national and international magazines to come and paddle the Missinaibi, paddle period to James Bay. It's a great trip, and you might die along the way because the maps are off. So,
yeah.
So that was and trying to get funding for these guidebook projects. My wife and I fund a lot of these projects, and it's our passion, and we feel obligated because we get so much out of nature and the wild rivers of this country. We want to put something back. So detail is important to us. And a lot of maps are coming out now. A lot of them are based on our explorations and our detail. So we're happy to share that information just to make sure that people have both a good time and a safe journey.
Yeah.
And so detail is very important. Not to say that everything's perfect.
Right.
Out of 40 years plus doing guidebooks, we've had less than a half a dozen complaints about portages that aren't there.
Wow.
And quite often that beavers have built a dam somewhere and flooded out portage, so it's not on that side of the pond anymore, it's on the other side.
Right.
So you can't control what happens, what nature does, with but detail is, I'm a detail kind of guy. I'm an artist as well, so that's just part of my nature.
Okay, so did you self-funded this Missinaibi book?
To a point, I did. I didn't get any help per se and no financial help from Ministry of Natural Resources. I asked for funding, but they turned me down until the story got out in the front page of the Toronto Star in 1994 that my research had uncovered a lot of problems with the topographical series, and the fact that they're advertising an unsafe product, really. When you look at that, that's if that's a provincial amenity, there was no good information or accurate information on the river. And when it came out, when the paper produced that story about the two Americans dying at Thunderhouse Falls, I had found their camera right after, and they published the photographs. And it according to the reporter at the time, said that was the biggest story he's ever worked on, and he had so many write to them saying that, well, we went over the falls, but we survived. So 5 people died there because of a mistake on the map showed the portage on the wrong side of the river.
Oh,
So I was embarrassed. I got a call from the Ministry of Natural Resources and across big oak desk from the manager there, and he pushed an envelope towards me, and it was a check for $10,000 to put towards the research. So
wow.
unfortunately, it took tragedy to get the government to do anything, which is not unusual today.
Right. Right.
But the Missinaibi, I'm very proud of the fact that we did work hard on uncovering some of the important things about that river. And there's 8,500 named rivers in Canada. Missinaibi is just one river out of all these rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do them all. I've done well over 100 rivers, but and there's inaccuracies on the topographic maps. When you look at the reasons why topographic map series were done, they were for political or military reasons, not for canoe recreations.
Okay. Yeah. Huh. And did you go to school for cartography or something like that?
No, I didn't. I self-taught in art. I was doing art since I was in grade school, and art cartography is something the only computerized map I did was for the government in 1980. That's the first Temagami map and it's still in use. I prefer the old style maps based on historical references and just the look, and not to say that they're inaccurate, like a lot of the historical maps were. A lot of them, a lot of the shorelines, etc., were in. And my maps are based on top accurate, but I add a touch of artistic flair to my maps, and I really prefer that. And people like that. They expect that from me in my books. So
yeah. So how did you said Richmond Hill, the wilds of Richmond Hill?
Well, wilds of Richmond Hill. It's we were in farm country, and we were north of the Summit View Golf and Country Club. So our property was part of the North Toronto Ski Club. So we had ski trails, a lot of ski trails and hiking trails in our area.
Okay.
So so that was a great place for a kid to grow up. And I was running pretty wild at the time.
Yeah.
And but I left home early. I was 17, 18 when I left home and went north, and I spent most of my time canoeing up in Temagami, covered all of Algonquin, Killarney, went north to Temagami, and then that stuck. And I loved it so much that I was living in a renovated chicken shack north of Toronto in Lasky, near King City, in the wintertime. And just I would make enough money doing portraits, house portraits, and dog and horse portraits, and other artwork for card companies, etc., just to make enough money to grub stake 5 to 6 months of canoeing up in Temagami. So I did that for several years before I got a job as a park ranger in Temagami.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. I finally made it to Temagami in June, and we did the Temagami River, which was awesome. Yeah, what a spot. Beautiful.
Yeah, it grows on you. I know a lot of people I meet for the first time. We're up there for 5 months running our eco lodge. We're off grid up there, and a lot of people pass through and sign our logbook that we've had going since 1980 there.
Yeah.
And first timers say they can't believe that they've never gone to Temagami, and they've paddled Algonquin and even Wabakimi or Quetico, but never Temagami.
Yeah.
And they say, they are just amazed at the, I guess, the ruggedness and the wildness of the, especially the interior area of Temagami.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And did you have, I heard just someone was saying you were key in saving Temagami. Is that?
Well, I'm an environmental activist. I have been since 1972 there. And one of my late great friends, Bob Hunter, who's the co-founder of Greenpeace, we did a lot of environmental videos across Canada, specifically for rivers in danger. And as a co-founder of Greenpeace, he started Greenpeace on the West Coast in 1972, and I became actively involved in Temagami in 1972 with the Maple Mountain
Oh wow. Yeah.
issue that, where the Ontario government decided to, turn Maple Mountain into an international ski hill because it had the highest vertical drop, the highest points in Temagami.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that Chibajing, place where the soul spirit dwells, is part of Nadaki Manan, which is the traditional territory of the Temiagama Anishinaabe people, and still used today as a spiritual site. So, back in the 1970s, the government didn't give a damn about the First Nations interests. So, and through the years, it pops up every once in a while. Local politicians will say, "Let's develop Maple Mountain," and so on and so forth. But no, I've been on the forefront of the movement, since '72.
Yeah.
And, I co-founded I co-founded Earth Roots, formerly Temagami Wilderness Society, which is still operating in Toronto. Fighting for Temagami protection, the green belt in Toronto, that kind of thing. The wolves of Algonquin. So my wife and I are really still actively involved in protecting especially wetlands and wild environments.
Yeah. Wow. How old are you now? Can I ask you that?
Nope.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still in my 30s. I'll be 72 this, and doing the same things I did when I was in my 20s and 30s. Luckily, my joints, are screaming. I've had 2 replaced knees and 1 replaced shoulder coming up in November. But as a whole car, the parts wear out and you just replace them. So, thank goodness for the technology and the healthcare system today.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
Full of titanium and nylons.
Amazing. So, what is it about canoeing that is sort of, is it canoeing that is your real passion, or is it the wilderness, or?
Aside from my wife, my real passion, there's a lot of things. And then I think canoeing is part and parcel of the wonderment of nature itself, and the cyclical nature of the ecosystems, especially across Canada. Canada is so unique, and I've been all across Canada, different environments, and it's such an amazing country, that many people don't get the opportunity to go and explore or visit. And I'm just happy that, through my writing and environment work, that I keep people informed and help people explore, even if they're not explorers or they're looking for a hardcore journey. They can sit on their comfortable soft chairs and live vicariously through some of my writings, which I think is important as well. So bringing, that's part of what exploration is about. It's about it's not about self. And we get a lot of that today in the YouTube society. Young people looking for sponsors and followers, and it's too much about self, and there's not enough humility, and it's not enough teaching. But we're just a conduit. Exploration and explorers are just a conduit for the people. We need to share more about the land, more about the indigenous people and their values, and what's needed, and a little less about self. And I think that's it's a bit of a problem that I've seen through the generations, since I started wilderness tripping, and a lot of good things are coming out of it, and there's a lot of disturbing things. Like the bushcrafters. We're having a lot of trouble with bushcrafters now. Going out to popular campsites and practicing, building shelters, taking trees down, building fire pits in unsafe places. I know, when we spend our time up in the core area of Temagami at our lodge, we're up and down the river doing maintenance and looking, at trouble spots, building latrines and cleaning up campsites. People are still pretty messy out there.
Yeah.
and taking down unsafe fire pits, which is so bizarre during a time with climate change and the intensity of the fires that we're getting.
Yeah.
It's really disturbing.
Are there current explorers you're following or watching that you're a fan of?
Um, no, you know what, I'm forced to be on social media because I'm a writer and I have books, and publishers expect writers to advertise their books on social media. I don't have a lot of I don't follow a lot of people. I have many friends that we share information. I don't see, like I said, there's a lot of look at me type people out there, and
Yeah.
I'd really like to see more about sharing and the true nature of exploration, rather than look where I've gone, look what I've done, look what I can do, kind of nonsense, which is rampant out there. So no, I don't have any so-called heroes out there. My wife is my biggest fan, and
Yeah.
I'm the biggest fan of my wife, I should say.
Yeah.
Uh, she, I, it, and
Is she on TikTok?
no, she's not on TikTok, and she was called the Portage Queen, for good reason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, she's the lady of Lady Evelyn now,
Okay.
but she's an amazing person, and I really, I'm proud to be, her husband,
Yeah.
and um, that. But as far outside that, like I admire some of my friends who do wonderful things and are full of humility, especially in the environment field. There's a lot of people who are unsung heroes, not looking for publicity or money or anything other than maybe on occasion being appreciated for their passion to protect wild spaces.
Yeah.
And it's the same with myself. We're lucky to have a place in Temagami in the park, but we also feel obligated to put back, because we get so much out of what we do there.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you paddled throughout Canada?
I paddled in I paddled in places in Quebec.
Yeah.
Certainly up in the territories in Nunavut. Mapped out 19 rivers for the Manitoba government and Canada Parks and tourism for Manitoba. Spent 4 years mapping out most of Manitoba rivers. So yeah, I've paddled in Scotland, did 3 rivers there. But as far as Canada goes, most of the places where canoeing is certainly featured. Not much out west, because that's mostly high intensity mountain rivers that require different equipment, different attitudes, I suppose.
Yeah.
We done some big rivers, but mostly with recreational type canoes, and not playboats or kayaks or rafts.
Right. Yeah. What did you have? Was there a most ambitious trip you had, longest trip, or most difficult trip?
Yeah, I've written about some of these. The book I wrote, River of Fire, was about a story that I was doing. I had pitched a story to Men's Journal magazine, who also produce Rolling Stone magazine out of New York, and they liked the idea of a quintessential Canadian adventure story. So I pitched the idea of doing the Seal River, which
Okay.
it had just become a heritage river, and it had all the right components for a wild river. Animals above you on the food chain, such as polar bears. It went from the boreal fringe out to the Arctic tundra. Sailing down Hudson's Bay coast, and also it had a lot to do with the Tuduli Dene, the Siasé Dene people who lived on, it was their traditional land. So a lot of the book was about their relocation to Churchill, and how they managed to survive that change and go back to the lands.
Yeah.
So that was, again, that's my intention, is not to write stories just about me. It's about, there's a lot of things going on out there. At the same time, that book, that there were the Manitoba's worst wildfires, so we had to deal with a lot of stuff out there. So that was one of the hardest. It was a 5-week trip that we that I had planned and did with a writer from Thurman, West Virginia, and a studio photographer from New York, and a degenerate guide's assistant that the story was a lot about it as well. So
yeah, a degenerate guide's assistant. I like that term.
Well, it's the first time I ever had to pull a gun on anybody. So
oh my gosh. Oh, amazing. Well, yeah, I'm going to buy that book after I finish talking to you. Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, it's been a popular book. And, it's just what can go. It's the dynamics of exploration and just human nature under duress. So it's, it covers all those facets of wilderness tripping.
Yeah, wow. I mean, my next question was there ever a time when you're out in the wilderness where you really felt like you were in trouble? It sounds like that might have been the trip.
Yeah, that there's a lot of times when things get really tough. But I mean, that's, I've been a guide for, most of all my adult life. So you learn the trade or you don't survive.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot, when I first started, our whole outfit we could buy for less than $40 at, we go down Yonge Street and at, Hercules Army Surplus. Everything we bought was either canvas, probably canvas, and everything blended with nature was, was green or tea and
right.
And it was serviceable, not great, but there have been so many changes, throughout the generations, and I learned some of the skills the hard way and with near-death experiences as well. So I've recounted some of those in my books and stories, and just to let people know that we're not above nature. We have to constantly make adjustments. There's so much push today from the new explorer types who use the word conquer or against nature. It never works to your favor, ever.
Right.
And it's about learning to make compensations and to adjust to nature's vagaries and influences. And once you get past that notion that you're not above nature, the whole door opens and you learn so much more, and you're capable of outdoor living rather than survival. Survival is basic skills, but 85% of survival is psychology and how to deal with with all of those things that nature wants to throw at you, and sometimes it's merciless, and it's tough. I mean, you're dealing with hordes of fighting flies and constant winds, and the Arctic is severe weather, and so there's a lot of things that you either learn and be humble towards nature, or you perish. I mean, our history books are full of people that have perished in the wilderness because of their arrogance and ignorance, and that's just the name of the game.
Right. Yeah. So what's you just mentioned the Arctic. Do you winter trip? Are you a winter tripping guy?
Yeah, I did a lot of winter camping since I was very young, and I did teach winter survival for Outward Bound on several occasions, and I covered a lot of territory especially in Temagami. I spent the winter when I was 21 in Temagami.
Wow.
In an old bush camp in a cabin, remote cabin, and would travel by toboggan and a sheet of canvas in a 5-gallon stove that I had made from an old drum and pipe, um, and then through the years after that, just I was out every winter for weeks on end. They weren't just weekend jaunts to Killarney. These were expedition type trips,
Yeah.
and sometimes last several weeks at a time. With pretty primitive of gear as well, not like the stuff that we have today. And
Yeah.
I would make jerky in the oven at home, and pounded and made pemmican. And our food fare was pretty basic at the time. The winter I spent there when I was 21, we had our rifles with us. We would hunt and we would trap, to survive, because we had just basic, like a bag of rice and some other dry foods.
Yeah. Wow. That's I mean, that's a lot of people's dream to do something like that. Well, certainly for a 21-year-old to go out into the woods is a romantic idea. Is it as great as it seems to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's some of the situations I got myself into were perilous, and I'd like to say I think I'm living. I've gone through 8 lives.
Yeah.
Maybe one more left. Um, and that's the fate of people in this business. You look at mountain climbers, you look at the extreme paddlers. They still they want to get out, and that romance of the wilderness, and that need to explore more or do something a little bit more difficult is always there. And you always have to check yourself, well, do you have the skills to do that, or do you have the strength? And then you have to calculate all of the what ifs. And there's a lot of stuff to think about, beyond that sense of romance that's there, and the success of completing a journey. And but a lot of outdoor explorers have perished, have died, because they eventually took on more than their skill level could handle. And that's something to be always cognizant of. I know I have a lot of skill. I wouldn't call myself an expert. There's always something that, and it was only a couple of years ago where I miscalculated some moving water. And I actually had, I was stupid because I had no life jacket. I had, heavy pocket pants on. I was testing for wild swimming up at our lodge, and I got into a hole, and I got sucked down, my pocket pants filled with water pulled me down. I actually drowned. I was
Wow.
gone. I
Whoa.
was white. And my wife, thank God, she's a powerful swimmer. She got in there, tried to grab me, missed me the first time. I was down for a long time. She managed, she said, it's not going to end this way.
Yeah.
And she reached down, grabbed me, and hauled me out, dragged me up on the rocks. And I coughed and sputtered. Luckily, I didn't breathe in that much. And then she was worried at first, that obviously. And then she said, we're going to talk about this stupidity when we get back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow.
even myself, who I thought, it would never happen. You do some stupid thing. It only takes one incident like that. If she wasn't there, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Right. Wow. No life jacket.
Well, no, and often it's not a waterfall where we often walk out with our shoes on and get underneath the waterfall. There's 2 chutes there, and one I've never been under, and I just read it wrong, and there never been in there, and it was a deep hole that formed a treacherous keeper, what we call a keeper, or
Yeah.
souse hole.
Yeah.
And the surface looked like it was pushing out, whereas when you get pulled down, you get sucked into that hole right below the flow. So that was something that's one of those things that's hard to read from the surface. So
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So do you have what's your year like? You end up like I looked at the careers. You're a writer, you're an artist, you're a trail builder, you're an eco lodge owner. How do you cram it all in? What is your year like in cycles, or how do you do it? How do you do it all?
it's just through work, hard work.
Yeah.
hard work, and the occasional good scotch. I like to be busy. We work hard for 7 months of the year, and we take 5 months off. So that's we do most of our trail work in the spring, April, May. We open up our lodge, run it for 5 months, and then in the fall we complete our trail work. And so, like I say, we work hard, during that period of time. Not to say we don't work during the wintertime. We're marketing for our lodge, and I'm doing my writing and artwork in the wintertime. But that gives us an opportunity to do some traveling. We like to mountain bike down in Sedona, Arizona.
Sweet.
And, so we're avid mountain bikers and skiers. So this is something that we look forward to at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And visiting we have a couple of kids, and 25 and 23, and beautiful kids. So we like to spend some time with them as well.
Right. Do you downhill ski?
I'm more of a cross country skier. My wife is an instructor. She's a really good skier.
Yeah. Okay.
I get down the hill.
Yeah. Okay.
I was a telemark skier. I was getting in, before my knees gave out.
Yeah.
And then, I spent 20 years with bad knees until I got them replaced. So I had to give up telemark skiing. As it's a lot of knee work.
Right. Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that's
yeah. Hey, you mentioned Wabakimi. I was just up there in August. I spent time with Bruce Heyer. You must know all these people.
Yeah, Bruce, I haven't spent any time with him. I know we've talked at different shows, and we're in the same environment circles often.
Yeah.
We cross paths a lot, but we don't. I never sat down and had a beer with him or anything.
Yeah. So I mean, he's at the point now where, well, he's 77 and his son doesn't want the lodge, and he's in a sort of quandary on what to do with it all. How are your kids going to take over your eco lodge? How do you see that going?
Yeah. Well, our business and property, we're lucky because it's privately owned property in a wilderness park. So, and it's in a trust for a family. So it will be in the family. Our daughter and son are keenly interested. They've been born into a wilderness lifestyles. So it's very important to pass that on. My wife's a few years younger than me, so she'll be here for when I pass on. So she'll be running this lodge for some time. And then if she gets tired of it, then you can only hope that your kids want to take over it. I mean, it's a beautiful life. We have the opportunity to spend time with some really interesting people that come up to our lodge, and it's we run it as a teaching learning place where people can reconnect with the old growth forests of Temagami. We do a lot of paddling and hiking there, and this day and age, people need that reconnect. And it's funny because it's in one way you're disconnecting, and another way you're reconnecting when they're out there. So, like I say, we meet a lot of interesting and nice people out there, and we enjoy helping them reconnect to something that's very important to them, and that's a healthy lifestyle. Nature has great healing properties, however you want to look at it.
Yeah. Do you have do you have some favorite rivers that you recommend people should paddle?
Well, I'm partial to our own river, which is Lady Outland. I've done that, probably well over 200 times.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the rivers I've done multiple times. They're sort of bucket list rivers out there. There's so many good rivers. I can't really name. I know the ones I put in my book are special. Not just because in some way they were threatened at one time, but because each river has a different personality. And you really have to do a river more than once to really find and enjoy all the nuances and the attributes that define a waterway. And even upstream, I do a lot of travel upstream, and you see the river in a totally different perspective. But a lot of people are collectors. They'll do one river a year, and they'll check it off, then they'll go do another river. But that I call these collectors, and you don't really um, get you don't really meld with the environment there until you really spend some time, and you need to do that multiple times to really learn and know the personality of a waterway.
Dang, I guess I'm a collector.
Well, it's better than nothing.
The Missinaibi's on the list for June. How many times have you paddled that? You must spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, I think maybe 6 or 7 or 8 times. I don't really, I can't remember. I know I've kept track of. I used to keep a log of the trips and mileage, and I stopped after about 60,000 kilometers.
Holy moly!
And that was stopped about 5 years ago. Just it's not about distance really. It's that's silly to keep a tally on the distance that you've paddled. I guess I could have gone to the moon and back,
Right.
around the world a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not about it's not about collecting. It's not about collecting rivers or collecting mileage. It's you can have a great trip that's maybe 2 kilometers long. And it doesn't have to be 1,000 kilometers. You can learn so much if you just take your time and look at all the detail. Again, I'm a detail person. I love looking at all the life that you can see on a dead log or a rock or a tree.
Yeah.
And or the clouds in the sky. I mean, um, instead of taking all those big wide angle landscapes, look at the detail as you go. You go slower, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is odd. My wife and I have done some, pretty big canoe races in the past, and we like to test ourselves every once in a while. But for the most part, we just take our time, and when we're mapping out new places, we mapped out the North Seal just a few years ago, and we just love exploring and taking the time and getting off the river, and walking and hiking. We do a lot of that in the Arctic as well. You get off the river and you hike back. That's where you make the discoveries. And I love the Esker country, which is the fringe, the tree line fringe across Canada. I've done a lot of travels in that area, and it was traveled by the indigenous peoples, the Dene people traveled on the Eskers, and to get off the rivers and start hiking and walking the same places where the Dene traveled, looking at way markers that they had put up. You find so much more. Animals follow the Eskers as well. So the wolves, the tundra bear, and and the people, and they buried their dead on top of these sand eskers because it's the only place the permafrost would thaw enough to allow them to dig holes. So yeah, that's the exploration's for me it's really, it means a lot more than distance and keeping track of the mileage. It's all of the things in between.
Right. Yeah. What's next for you?
What's next? I don't know. I wake up every morning and say, what am I going to do today? So, I don't like schedules. I lose track of time all the time. That's why thank God I've got a wife that has a good memory and keeps track of books and things. Otherwise, I'd forget to pay bills, and she controls all that, which is great. So,
you don't
what's
have
next?
You don't have any big trips planned or big rivers you want to get done? Or
I did my last commercial trip last year. I'm not going to do that anymore. And that was just, I've done it most of my life, and I really enjoy it. But
by commercial trip, you mean like a guided trip? You were the guide?
Yeah, I did the blood last year with 8 clients, and my nephew was actually he was learning, so he was my assistant, and it was a tough trip for me personally, not physically, but just having to do all the organizing and dealing with people that had mediocre skills on a river that was flooded, in the fires the previous year, it burned out a lot of the portages and campsites.
Mm.
And the fact that I got vertigo for a week along that trip, I thought, the stress and just having to deal with that injury was a bit much. I'm going to still travel with friends and family for sure. I've got, I know my friend Les Stroud, Survivor Man, been bugging me to do the Mountain River, so
Oh,
that might be in the works for the near future. And I know
that.
Ron James, comedian, also wants to tag along on that trip. So
Oh, wow.
we'll see how that pans out. I got another book on the go. It has nothing to do with canoeing,
Okay.
so I'm pretty excited about that one.
The Mountain River is high on my list if you need a photographer for that trip.
Okay,
I got to
keep in
collect that
touch.
one. I need that one in my collection.
Yeah, well, my life, I've got a lot of rivers I still want to paddle.
Yeah.
I may become a collector in my old age, so just to
Amazing.
chalk up the number.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any advice for people that want to, I don't know, live this creative? It looks like a pretty great life you've created for yourself. How do you do that?
Yeah, my kids used to go to school when they were young, and they would walk out to the school bus, and I'd yell out the window, and I'd say, um, question authority, fight the power. and they'd look back at me and say, are you sure you want to tell us that? And yeah, maybe I don't give good advice to students. I did a cum laude speech to private school kids down in the States once, and I said, they're going on to higher education, and I said to them, I said, look, the best thing you guys could do right now is to buy a backpack and go and hike and visit the world, and put school off for a couple of years, much to the chagrin of all the parents that were there listening to me talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say persevere. There's a lot of budding artists, photographers, and creative people out there, and it's a tough business to be in, but you really need to persevere and find that niche market. With the technology today, it's very helpful, and but I think perseverance is good, and humility is a big thing. If you're going into the outdoor trade, which is big these days, again, it's less about self and more about what can I share, what can I bring back, to share with people that would make life better for them and myself. Yeah, so yeah, I think that would be the message that I would send out.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Do you have anything else to add questions I should have asked that didn't?
A lot of questions out there,
Yeah.
and so many. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say. I think you've covered a lot of the basics there. So
Yeah.
and I can rant on forever, and not to get into politics or religion or
Yeah.
uh,
Amazing.
the world is changing a lot, and I've written a lot about survival, urban survival, and wilderness survival, and in my last couple of books, and which I'm very happy about. It took over 20 years to write Dance of the Dead Man and Out of Abaddon, which is basically an urban survival guide. But people can join me on my Facebook or Instagram pages. It's Hap Wilson 1951 Instagram, and my Facebook page, for sure, and a website, hapwilson.ca.
I think I have it here. hapwilson.com.
.com. Yeah, see
Yeah.
how much time I don't know my
Amazing.
own. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there. I have an online store as well, and that's quite busy, for my art and my writing. So,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to personalize all my books that go out too. So, and chat with people. I get a lot of requests on, routes, where to go, what water levels are like, and all
Oh
that kind of
gosh,
stuff.
I bet.
I don't mind sharing that information, just so people have a good time and safe
Yeah, I mean,
travels.
every time I'm looking to do a new river, it's like, there's no great website that has all the answers on it. with as far as shuttles and portages and mileage and water levels. But I mean, your book is unbelievable. This thing is so thorough. It's out of focus. There we go.
Well, that's the thing about the guidebooks, is that there are details. We're having trouble now, like in Temagami. People are migrating up to Temagami, like from places like Algonquin, where it's well tended, well attended, and well tended, well signed. And they get to Temagami, and there's only partial signs on portages and campsites. And if they look at the new maps that are produced, they only give the lengths of portages. So a lot of people who go to Temagami are shocked when they get up to the interior area in particular, and they see how rugged the terrain is. That the guidebooks explain what you're going to find up there. The maps tell you nothing except give you the lengths of the portages. So a lot of people have been turning back. They say that's too tough. The river that we're on, Lady Evelyn, has legendary portages, and there've been bones broken on those portages, and they're tough if you're not used to that. And in signage, when I was a park ranger there and worked on the park maps originally, we had a no signage policy to adhere to wilderness values. Now people, they won't travel without the signs. And
right.
If there are no signs, people start putting up flagging tape, which we take down because it ends up as garbage, and it deters from the experience. So, and people forget, what traditional portage markings are. The blazes, the old axe blazes on trees and rock cairns. They have no idea what they are. So they, and they complain to me sometimes. They'll write to me and say, "Well, that portage wasn't there," and I know darn well it was. It's just, it may be overgrown because there's not a lot of maintenance out there. There's no park people looking after portages these days.
Right.
So it's user maintained. So a lot of these portages are overgrown, but the portages are still there.
Yeah.
If you know where and how to look.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, Hap Wilson, thanks so much for joining us, man. It's great to meet you and talk to you. And I could talk to you for a long time. I think you got a million stories, I'm sure.
My pleasure entirely. Thanks a lot.
I'd like to thank Hap Wilson for taking the time to speak with us. If you want one of his guidebooks, some of his art, or to get him trail building, check out hapwilson.com. If you want to give him a shout to talk about water levels on a particular river, his phone number is there too. He's happy to chat. Our West Coast MC Feet Banks will be back in 2 weeks' time. I'm sure he'll be interviewing someone rad. Thanks to you all for listening. Don't forget to check out the print editions of Mountain Life magazine. You can get a subscription. Remember those? Over at mountainlifemedia.ca. Thanks to Shariah Rules for the voiceovers in the intro, and to Adrian Gendro for the guitar licks. Until next time, 2 wheels, 1 love. Peace!